Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net, bringing you another creator spotlight. Today, we have my trusty co-host here, Rob Arnold, and the one and only Art Thibert. How you guys going today? Art, welcome to the show, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks for the invite. It's a great honor to be here and hanging out with you guys, talented individuals.
Yes.
Chat is really excited to have you here, Art, which is great.
I always, whenever somebody says excited, I always think of that stupid Jim Carrey joke, like, you're excited, feel these nipples. Do you remember that? Was that Ace Ventura? You're excited, feel these nipples.
Beautiful.
There's the icebreaker right there, you guys.
We've got Max Works, we've got Arden, we've got Keiju, we've got King Crow, we've got Lydial, we've got Jose.
King Crow, caca. Did King Crow do his caca?
He did, yeah. He did.
Awesome. So
what? Go, Clayton.
How long have you been in comics for now, Art? A while, yeah?
Oh my gosh. I always say 35 years, but I was on a live stream with Graham Nolan, and I think we actually sat down and did the math, and I believe we broke in the mainstream the same year. I believe it's more like 38 years, so I'm like 4 decades into this, and I got to do some of the math one of these days when I get some time, and I believe I have at least a year in the independents before my mainstream work. And the only reason I remember the year, I think it was like 82, is because I did a Teen Titans spotlight with Aquaman and Aqualad, and I believe it signed 82. So that's where I get all my math from, just that one date that I signed that cover. That was my first big cover, so that's why it always stands out for me.
Cool. That's an incredibly long time. So you are what we would call a comic book veteran, in a sense.
Or like they say legend, but I always say legend in my own mind. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you've seen all the different ages of comics. You were there for the 90s and the comic books before that. It must have been quite an experience to see comic books evolve over this time. How has the industry changed? Has it changed a lot for you in your experience?
I think the biggest change has been maybe the last 5 years with the kind of more of the agenda-driven comics and entertainment, and not just comics, but Hollywood's going the same way. Go woke or get woke, go broke kind of thing. And I love that. And I was like, what's that?
That's happening.
Yeah. So the more agenda stuff, and it's like they say, well, comics have always been political. Not like this. I mean, this is very one-sided. This is very cancel culture. If you don't like New Warriors, then you're a homophobe. Like there's a lot of name calling happening these days and stuff. So 4 decades, the biggest difference to me as far as the mainstream collective is when I first broke in, there was no money. There's no money. So everybody did it because they loved to do it. So there was a camaraderie. Everybody helped everybody. There were deadlines and there was hard work, but everybody had fun. And then things started shifting into like more of a business model, but in the worst of ways. It was more like, get this shit done now. You have the internet. There's no excuse. There was more of like that kind of pressure cooker scenario. So we went from like post to digital, but for me it got worse because the expectations from the companies were higher. They were like, well, it won't take me a week to get pages. I should get the pages now. And for some reason they think it's magic. So there's that, and then now there's the agenda driven stuff. And for me, the reason I like Comicsgate is Comicsgate feels like when I first started. You know what I mean? Because there's everybody, there's camaraderie. We're all helping each other. We're sharing platforms. Thank you guys for having me on, by the way. And I'll have you guys on too, because that's the way this thing works. And it feels more organic. It feels more old school. It feels more like, we're doing this because we love it. But the great thing is we're not going broke. Like these books are selling and we're doing okay, and we're doing it like the Frank Sinatra. We're doing it our way. You know what I mean? We're not doing it like the Marvel way or the DC way. We're doing it our way, and that's great.
Yeah, I've said before, like before Comicsgate, I was doing it on my own on Kickstarter, and it was a grind. Like it was so hard, and I had a lot of individual supporters, but once I joined Comicsgate, it feels like a collection of people, like a group of people actually really want to see you succeed. It feels amazing. It really does.
Oh, go ahead, Clayton. I'm sorry.
I was just going to agree with you guys. It does have that vibe about it, Comicsgate. It's like it brings you back to when you were a kid and you were just drawing comic book characters because you loved them, because you liked seeing what you were drawing on the page. And I think that's what makes a lot of the projects being put out on Indiegogo right now from people in Comicsgate feel so genuine and real, because it's coming from the heart rather than from a corporate company that's kind of just telling you what to do. And I was going to say as well, just on the whole political comic books, I think there's a difference between political comics and then just plain outright propaganda.
Yeah, because the political, there have been political stories, but they usually try to reflect both sides, or like at least the two sides of the argument, whatever that is, whether it's conservative, progressive, whatever, whatever that, I think of the Denny O'Neil, Green Lantern, Green Arrow stuff, because, they both represented the right and the left, and they did have problems. And there was an episode or issue where they actually had a knockdown, drag out fight, but they still worked things out and they still respected each other, and their beliefs. And well, that's what came out of, after, kind of hits the critical mass part of it. But there was that kind of conclusion to it. I don't know if we're going to have the same kind of conclusion, because now the other side doesn't really even want to hear. They label you istrophobe, and then that's it. And then cancel culture sets in, right? Then they go, you should be fired, you should be destroyed, you're a horrible human being, and then they move on to the next person that they can destroy. And I've never seen anything like this, in all the years I've been alive. That kind of just blatant disregard for the other side or the other point of view. Holy shit!
Yeah, man. I mean, like we came so far to have the freedom to be able to express our ideas and opinions regardless of what our perspective was on things. But now it seems as though we're being cancelled for doing so, as you so eloquently put it.
Yeah, I didn't make it up. I like, there's certain things I like, and I like the cancel culture, and I like the go woke, go broke. There's like certain things that I
well,
really
that's so true.
Virtue Signal, I know that some of these things are kind of like passe now, but Virtue Signal is still one of my favorites, because like you even see some of these politicians and you're just like, they take a knee in front of like Black Lives Matter, in the Senate here, and you're just like, oh my gosh, that is like Virtue Signal, on high. Like these guys, are like telegraphing this stuff, on a political level. Crazy grandstanding. It's insane. Yeah, totally.
Well, I think entertainment in general has just got to come back to entertaining people first and foremost. If they do that, if they can just do that, they'll be all right. Then they can send through whatever message they want, as long as it's done in a strategic way. I think, yes, art has always been about that freedom of true expression. If we don't have that, what do we have?
Right.
Well, we're living in one of those future worlds where
We'll take that full circle, and we'll bring it back to great stories and talk about black and white.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Oh,
do I call you Replicator, or do you have a name?
Is it Rob's my name, but you can call me whatever you like.
Okay.
Replicator Rob.
Replicator Rob.
Yeah. So I actually really like the artwork on the Replicator book, Rob. It's really good. Yeah. So you're the writer on the book, or you do a
writer creator? Yeah.
That image of her laying in the water.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Shit, man, that's iconic. And you know as well as I do, like if you can get that image, you know, that defines your IP, then that's great. And that for me, that does. It's kind of like Adam Post's College of the Dead. You know, where the zombies, they got the cap and gown and they got their diplomas and they're all rotting. You know, I think that's just iconic. Yeah.
So with just before we get into black and white, do you have a mailing list sign up for the new campaign?
We did. We had the pre-launch, and so we are live now. And everybody, so everybody that pre-launched, if they back the book, they're getting that free trading card. So yeah.
And is it the Second Chance Volume 1?
Yep. Yeah, it's for the Second Chance Volume 1. We launched, I think, 4 or 5 days ago now.
Beautiful.
It was Thursday. Yeah.
I can't wait to get this.
Let me zoom it in.
Look at that.
Yeah,
that's a great start, Art. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought, well, I was hoping we would, for the entire campaign, do about 10K, maybe sell 100 to 150 books. This thing blew up beyond my wildest expectations. So yes, I am stunned and amazed and happier than I've been in a long time. So this is good. And my wife she's like, oh yeah, well we can pay the mortgage this month.
Oh, beautiful. I've talked to you about this on Twitter before, but this character design, man, is fantastic. Is that has she changed much from the 90s?
Yeah, if you can screen share, this is kind of what the character looked like in 94.
Oh, cool.
So they kind of had more like Gambit type masks and things.
Yeah.
And so, and then he had a big vest. I was always a big fan of Walter Simonson's, what was his name? The Manhunter. And so I kind of emulated the big vest for black. And then she had like a mini vest later. So there's that incarnation. And then there's this version. And then I have one that's got a helmet. So this version is kind of a hybrid of the original 94 and the new designed uniforms. So now their uniforms more mirror each other because you know, the black and white and the symmetry and all that, because their costumes were, you know, one was black and one was white, but they weren't the same suits. You know, they didn't look the same. Because to be honest, when I first did it, I wanted her to be sexy and I wanted a little bit of skin to show.
Yeah, no, I get that. Believe me.
So now she's fully covered up.
Right.
Yeah. So that right there is the what we did with this campaign is it mirrors the original. So we wanted to have all the same bells and whistles as the first, but we couldn't do the ash cans because we completely sold out. So this is the campaign based on all the overage. So we have the original campaign stretch goals. So we're going to offer those as well. So you can get those as an add-on, or they're part of the killer bot tier, and that's all the included. I think it's the other way, the killer bot tier. Oh yeah. I think, yeah, keep going. Yeah, it's right there. So the killer bot tier, that comes with all 3 books, the oversized poster print, and all the stretch goal goodies. And like I said, you can get the stretch goal goodies as an add-on at checkout as well. Beautiful. Yeah.
That's great. This cover's fantastic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was really fortunate. My buddy over at Dynamite, Nick Brucci, just called me out of the blue and said, "Hey, how would you feel about, like to do a black and white Vampirilla crossover cover?" And I was like, "Hell yeah!" And then he goes, "Well, it's for Vampirilla's 50th anniversary." And I go, "Well, black and white has a 25th anniversary," and it just felt, it's just one of those things. It just felt right. So so black and white is celebrating their 25th. And Vampirilla her 50th. So this is a commemorative cover that we put together with the great Kyle Ritter's colors on them as well. So I asked Nick real nice, could we make them, that cover part of this campaign? And he's like, yeah, no problem.
It's great, man. That's
Thank you.
fantastic. Clayton, your art's female drawings look similar to yours, or is that just my imagination?
Yeah, there's some similarities there for sure. That's probably one of the reasons as to why I find the look of this book so appealing, actually. Did you illustrate everything within this book, Art? Were you responsible for the interiors as well?
Yeah, it's all me.
Wow.
Things, writing, and there's the Greg Capullo cover.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but all the interior stuff is me. The storytelling. I broke in as a penciler and an inker on the same day. So I got work
Cool.
from DC as a penciler and work from Marvel as an inker. So I've always kind of done both. And even when I was kind of younger, I didn't distinguish between like inker and a penciler. I always inked my own stuff. Like I just thought that that's the way it was done. So I never even deviated or like thought that there was a difference. I just figured that that's how everything was supposed to look. And then when you get older, you realize, well, it's kind of an assembly line. There's a penciler and there's an inker and so on and so forth. Yeah.
And who colored this one? This one's great too.
That's Kyle Ritter. Yeah.
Man, I was going to say, it looks like his work. Man, he's so good.
He's a great colorist.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I really love his stuff. The color on the Greg Capullo, which is pretty exceptional too, is my buddy Priya from India. And so he did all the interior work as well. So,
this one?
Yeah, he's no slouch. And he did all the color work for Chrono Mechanics as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so that boy is pretty good as well. He works with the studio. I think Kyle is still a solo guy.
Yeah. Yeah. When you can lock down his services, you did work very well.
Yeah. I just pay him a shit ton of money. So he always prioritized, I'll do the cover for you.
Yeah, cool. Oh, that's great. Well, I'm definitely going to back this second chance edition of Black and White. Unfortunately, I missed the first chance art, so I'm very happy to see this up. I was going to back it yesterday, but I looked at my bank account and I realized I would have to wait until Friday.
Hey, no harm, no foul. It's going to be up for the full 30 days. I believe we're only 5 days into it. So this Thursday will be 7 days.
That's great. Can you get both of the Kyle Ritter colored covers in one tier?
Well, the big artwork is a poster print, so it's not a cover. It's just offered as a print. So you can get the book. Wait a minute. In the featured tier, you can get the book and the poster print. In the featured, you get all three of the books and the poster.
Cool.
Let me think. I think you can get the Capullo book as an add-on, but to be honest, we don't have a book poster tier, which is kind of strange. Yeah, we don't have a book poster tier, but we do have tiers that have both. So like the featured tier and the Killer Bot tier has all three of the books plus poster.
Damn, that's so good, Art. Wow.
Thank you. You know what I should do is I should put the poster in as an add-on so you can get any one of the books, and then at checkout you can add on the print. That would probably be a good, because I don't want to like put too many tiers because it gets a little bit daunting. Have you ever seen these Kickstarter campaigns? They got like 18 tiers, like every combination.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Always the best, I reckon.
Yeah, you get into option paralysis. It's like, what should I back? So I'm going to write that down. Was that you, Rob, that mentioned the poster book tier?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll do the poster as an add-on, you guys.
So talk to us about Black and White. It started in 90. When was it?
94.
94.
Yeah, if you look at the poster print, the one robot's got a big 94 on his shoulder. That's the year the series.
That's cool, man.
That's cool. So it's a little, and if you look at most of my stuff, like most of the Chrono Mechanics, there's a 7 that keeps popping up. When I originally came up with Chrono Mechanics, my daughter was 7 years old. So it's like Team 9.2 of Sector 7. The ship has a 7 on it. There's a lot of 7s that pop up. So I just think it's one of those fun things. Like right now, she just goes, "Oh, Dad, you're a big doofus, but when she's older, she might go, oh, that's kind of cool, I'm 7 when you came up with that.
I love stuff like that, like the little tiny Easter eggs you find in comic books. It's great.
Yeah. I used to put Elvis Presley when I was doing Superman. The Elvis, he had just died, so there were all the Elvis sightings. You guys are much, much younger than I do, but maybe you remember that there were a bunch of Elvis sightings, so that became like, in all the, it's almost like an urban legend now.
Yeah.
Where all the magazines was like, Elvis sighting. So I started drawing Elvis Presley in the background and stuff of a bunch of Superman pages. And I have one. Do you guys have a moment? I'll show you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have it on my wall. Hold on.
Great.
That's great, man.
Cool. So everyone watching right now, later on, we're thinking of putting out an open invite to anyone who wants to jump on and have a chat with Art and ask him questions. So make sure you stick around for that. We'll probably do something like that in that second hour.
Oh, cool.
All right, let's take a look.
So see where the ring is? That's Lois's engagement ring. So like Clark and Lois are basically telling Jimmy Olsen, that they're engaged. And so, yeah, right there is like Priscilla Presley. Look at her big, like beehive hairdo.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Elvis Presley, with his jumpsuit, his sequin jumpsuit. So I would do stuff like that, all throughout these books for months. Like it wasn't just one book. It was like several books. And this lovely lady right over here was my girlfriend at the time. And then she became my wife. And then this weirdo right here above Clark, that's me.
Cool.
Yeah.
So a bit of sentimental value on this one.
Yeah, that's why I've never sold it. And also there was a big, huge Superman documentary that Bryan Singer put together for that Superman Returns movie. And I was in it, and I showed them that artwork, and it became kind of like a feature in the movie. So that was really, really cool. So it does have a lot of meaning. There's only a handful of stuff that I've done in the past that I really have a connection to, and this was definitely one of them.
That's amazing. I'd love to talk a little bit more about some of your history in comics as well, because it sounds like you've had quite an adventure along the way, Art.
Yeah, there's been some low lows and some high highs. One of the killer things is I don't know if you would, like there's a certain celebrity in comics. I wish there was more now that there's film, but there really isn't. But in the 90s, when books were selling really, really well, there was perhaps more opportunity as far as just taking advantage of, maybe your celebrity. So I was working on Cable for Marvel, and I was penciling and inking that with Fabian writing. And so I was invited to go on Home Shopping Network. And I don't know if you guys get Home Shopping, I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. But holy shit, it's like, we got invited to do a segment. So there was a bunch of sign and numbered cables. So we were going to go on the show, and, you basically for an hour, you hawk your wares, it's like cable number 1. And so they had these big pads of paper. So I'm drawing Cable, and they're filming it, they're cutting back. And one of the cool things is Mr. T was in the segment with me. So Mr. T and I are like riffing back and forth, and we got the hour, going back and forth. He's selling Mr. T and the T Force. I'm selling Cable number 1s. And so it was really, really cool. It was surreal. And my wife came to Florida with me. These home shopping, it's like a movie studio. I was gonna say a small movie studio. It's a full-on movie studio. They have sound stages because they do their little segments, and they have stage setups. And they have, because it was all phone, like you phoned in orders, so it was kind of pre-internet. And so they had miles of I guess phone people that were taking these orders while you were live. I mean, thousands of employees. It was insane. So I got the tour of all the facilities and things. It was like crazy. So then we went out to dinner later with all the home shopping QVC people, and Mr. T was there. And we got to go out to dinner with Mr. T. And
Wow.
my
Get to go to
wife-
dinner with him?
yeah. My wife absolutely loves the A-Team. Like when we were first dating, she's like, "You gotta love the A-Team, or I'm not gonna love you," kind of thing. I mean, she loves everything about the A-Team. I mean, when I first met her, she had every episode. This is VCR. She had them all recorded. We still have them. Like, she won't even let them go. They're still in. We don't have a player, but she still has them recorded. And so I tell you what, there were probably 10 people at the table with us, all kinds of, executives and different money people and stuff. And there's just me sitting across from Mr. T and my wife sitting right next to her. And so all these guys, these guys are trying to be tough guys. It's like, so what was like the ultimate fighting? What was that like? And what was like Rocky, and all this stuff. And they're trying to connect with him, thinking like Mr. T is like this tough guy and he's going to tell them stories, right? And Mr. T was just kind of answering, but being very polite, but not giving a lot of himself, right? And so then my wife is talking to him just like a normal human being. And my gosh, they were talking about family, about raising kids, like all kinds of just like private and personal stuff. And I was like, holy shit, she's getting Mr. T to open up. And I didn't know this about Mr. T. And she brought it out. He goes, when you're paying me, I'm Mr. T when I'm on the clock. And when I'm not getting paid, I'm not Mr. T. So you never get to see him as this other guy, because every time you see him, he's getting paid. But even at that dinner, he was Mr. T because he was still kind of on the clock. But he was letting his mohawk down a little bit, and he was talking one-on-one with my wife, and it was absolutely surreal. So these moments do come up from time to time. So that was a real high point for me, and it was mostly just to see my wife talking to an idol of hers, and she's not like, oh God, it's Mr. T or anything, and she's just like cool as a cucumber. They were just hanging out. It was awesome.
That's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you miss those times? I got to imagine it's not that crazy anymore for you.
Yeah, the 90s, in the 90s when they say like Image and stuff, that Rockstar, it was Rockstar. And then if you think about it this way, like I'm a big music guy. I played music all my life. In the other room, I have my studio set up, so I have my big drum kit and everything out there. And so I like music, and when you look at like the sales of the 90s, like millions of copies of books that were incredible. I would have, if this was rock and roll, I'd have gold albums. You know what I mean? I would literally have Clayton, I'd have a wall of gold albums because I sold multiple books that were million sells. And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and if you think about like because comics is a monthly schedule, so you're selling million this month, million next month, million. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy. So I always think like, man, I wish comics had gold records or gold comics, because I'd love to see a wall, of that.
Do you think we'll see a time like that again, Art? Especially with what's happening now in the indie scene, in Comicsgate, etc.
That is a great question, and I'm seeing a lot of indicators that are pointing in that direction. So this might be a little bit of hopefulness, me projecting, but I think it is. I think this is the big boom right now. This is the next big thing in comics, and I don't know how I've been able to do this, but like if you look at my career, almost every movement that has happened in the last 40 years, I've either been peripherally part of it or like full involved in it. And so I think that Comicsgate right now and what we're doing is that. It is Image Comics, but better. Like I think this business model is way better than Image Comics. And I could go off on a tangent on how, but just to answer your question, I do think that whatever that is that pulled me towards Image, or whatever those, the death of Superman, all those different things, the Ultimate Spider-Man and all that stuff, like whatever that force was that pushed me in those directions, I think is pushing me into this Comicsgate direction right now. I don't want to get all metaphysical and feel like it's like, that, but
go ahead.
Yeah, I do really feel like like this is the place to be. Like if you're doing comic books right now,
Yeah.
this is the destination. You know, right now I don't see anything that can even come close to it. And I also feel like everything that's happening right now is just the tip.
Me too.
Yeah, you guys are only seeing the tip. And I said this on my stream earlier today that we have about 2 years invested in the comic IP part of, you know, Comicsgate. And I think if we can get 2 to 3 years beyond this, so if we can get to a 4 or 5 year where we're at right now, or if we can go beyond that, which I do think we will, the history books will have to acknowledge our existence. You know what I mean? Like this will be significant. You know, like Image Comics, you know, they got their little footnote in history. And I do believe in 2 to 3 years, if we can maintain this, which I don't see any reason why we can't.
Yeah.
I do believe that there will be a footnote in history, and they will have to begrudgingly acknowledge this punk rock existence, you know, and they'll have to, because it will be undeniable.
And a lot of the books that Comicsgate are putting out are like real top quality books too. Like the art's like real top notch. Like it's quite impressive.
Well, like Black and White, like
Black
that
and White.
comic, it looks really, really cool. Let's take a look. It looks incredible.
Quick question, Art. How many cable number ones did you sell with Mr. T on that television show?
I think I sold over 1.5 million. I think it was 1.7 million. So almost 2 million copies. It was an oversized book too. So it was, I think it was $1 more per cover than the average Marvel book. So if we sold that,
Oh man,
we would be rich beyond belief.
oh.
But selling it in the day, you know, you do very well, but you know, Marvel obviously takes the lion's share of the money. So I'm not kind of begrudging it, but now, you know, if you do 1,000, if you do 2,000 in your campaign, you know, you're going to do really, really well. And these are tangible numbers, you guys, you know.
Oh yeah.
You know, get 1,000 people, get 800 to 1,000 people, you know, and then just kind of keep building off there. You can make a pretty comfortable life for yourself, depending on, you know, what you follow it up with, and so on and so on.
Yeah, what I love about it is you've got so much control over your success now. Like, you can go out there and start a channel. You can start your own TV show to promote your comic book on now. And it's amazing. You can network with all the other TV shows that are out there that do get, you know, a massive audience behind them. And you can promote your book. You can take the time that you need on the book to create something that's special, that is going to satisfy that audience. It's a really incredible time we're living in, and it's real. Like, Comicsgate isn't this closed place. There's no wall from stopping you to being a part of it.
Right.
You can go out there, create a comic book, start networking with other creators, and make this happen today.
Yeah, I have people that contact me. Some of them are really, really established professionals. They say, what is Comicsgate? How do you get involved? And my gosh, man, Malin's got like these comic isms. Oh god. Yeah,
sorry. Copy went down the wrong way.
Clayton's down. But he said early on, he said, just grab an oar. Grab an oar. So now I find myself just parroting that. And they said, how do you do it? I said, grab an oar. And they go, what do you mean by that? I said, just hang out with us. That's all it takes, man. Just start going in the chat. I have Kenneth Racafort hanging out with me in the chat. I have Carlo Barberi hanging out with me in the chat. You know, so there's these guys, you know, Aaron Lepresti. You know, there's a lot of these guys that are not just on the peripheral. They're actually starting to kind of come in and be associated with us. And this is great stuff, you know. So my thing, just to answer, you know, is that I do think that we're going to see more of this, and when people do wonder how to get in, don't wonder, just private message Clayton or Rob. You know what I mean? Just
Totally.
DM them and just say, hey, how do I get on your show? Here's my IP. And then I know this gatekeeping term. I hate the term gatekeeping. Everybody fucking gatekeeps. Pardon my friend. Everybody gatekeeps. Everybody profiles. Can we get past this?
Yeah.
That's how we survive. So everybody has their level that they're comfortable with supporting. You don't want to put your name and associate with something that might tarnish your brand. So you are a little bit careful. You do gatekeep. So just keep in mind, if you send stuff to me or Rob or Clayton or whoever, that we may not support your project, but more often than not, I think it will happen. We'll have you on the show. We'll talk about your new comic or whatever. So
yeah, totally. So for those out there who are thinking of starting their own comic book and producing it, Art, what's your best advice for them? Because you've done it all. Like you've written, you've inked, you've drawn. Do you color as well?
I do color. I started off as an illustrator, so I painted and
cool.
I did color work. And now my daughter's a fine artist, so she does all that stuff right now. But I would say, it sounds like an oversimplification. Just do it, man. Just
do it.
Freaking make a comic book. It's not
Yeah.
overly complicated. Make a comic book, and if Marvel and DC aren't going to hire you, or you don't want to work for them, just keep working on honing your craft. Keep making comic books, and then build up your social media. One of the things before Comicsgate, I did have a YouTube channel, but I didn't really do much with it. And then you realize, like what we're doing right now, how much better this is than Facebook, than Twitter, than Instagram, than all those things. Because like what you guys are doing right now, in real time, we're talking to people. We're getting feedback from the chat. We're interacting. And you can kind of do that with Instagram and Twitter and all those, but not to this extent. And also, when you guys do launch your crowdfund, Facebook, Twitter, and all these different platforms have algorithms. So what you're going to do, I think was it Rob, you were saying you went through Kickstarter, you did a crowdfund. I know you found this out. Like you think, oh, I got 5,000 friends that follow me on Facebook. And then you go a week into it and you blow through your whole friends list. And then you have 3 weeks of the campaign and you're like, well, now who do I contact? And then, you like Twitter and all those platforms are very, very limited. The only platform that I know that has growth potential and a way that you can interact daily and have substantial growth with it is YouTube, and especially like the Comicsgate network that we're all part of, is that you guys can come over, you can share my audience, I can come over, I can share your audience, and so forth. So I say, one, love it, because especially in the early days, there's not going to be a lot of cash. We are talking about, Comicsgate successful, this, that, and the other thing, but it's not automatic. You're not just going to be Comicsgate and then sell 1 billion copies. You're still going to have to, especially if you don't have a resume, you don't have a pedigree, you're going to come in. And the only way that you're going to build this thing is keep a presence like stuff that we're doing right now, and try to get your book almost done or close to getting done before you launch your crowdfund, and then fund ASAP. So make your book the best it can, work on your social media, and then fulfill on time. Like some of us, like Ethan and stuff, like we have a little bit of wiggle room. Like if we don't fulfill on the exact date and stuff like that. But when you're starting, you don't have a reputation to fall back on. So if you don't come through early on, then that's going to follow you. So you can build a good reputation or a bad reputation, and you'd much rather have a good reputation, because then you can build that goodwill and take that goodwill and bring it into your next campaign. So be patient and know that you're going to, kind of like what you guys are doing. You have this project, and then you have your next project, and hopefully each one will kind of keep building and building, because like I come in, but I have 38 years. Ethan comes in and he has 35 years or whatever. Well, I don't even know. I think he has more like 27 or something. He's an old guy, but he's not as old as I am. And so, you know what I mean? So then there's like, you don't get that far without making deadlines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a career at Marvel and DC if you don't fulfill and you don't keep your word. So there is a little bit of goodwill. Like, we get more goodwill, you know what I mean? And more of a pass than, say, a new person coming in, because they don't have that reputation. No one's going to say, oh, you're good for it, because we know that you delivered, for X amount of decades for Marvel or DC. So those things are really, really important in those early days. So your reputation, your integrity is everything, you guys.
And YouTube also allows your audience to get to know you, and build a rapport with you, so that then they're more likely to back a project that you put out. So YouTube's the answer, man. You see it with Ethan. Like, he's got 130,000 subs and nearly $1 million on his Cyberfrog books.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the exception. So we should never go, I'm going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, even I'm realistic, but there are some people you see him, like Ethan talks about, like, he won't let me on the show, or my campaign tanked because of this. It's like, so far, I haven't been on Ethan's show once. You know what I mean? Like, everything that I've done, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not casting shade or anything, but
of course,
you should try to be as independent as possible.
Absolutely.
Like all that other stuff, like even being on your show, I didn't expect this to happen. This is icing. This is icing on the cake.
That's exactly how I look at it too. Like, everything that you get is a luxury, but it should all be you, or as much as you can be.
Yeah, and what you're saying, Rob, it's trust. It's establishing that trust. So you're on your show every day. They see you. They know you're a good guy. They can base their decision to back your book on seeing you, and especially like if you don't have a reputation, a good reputation, I should say, then they don't know. But they can see you every day, and they're more likely to back you guys based on seeing you here than anything else.
Totally.
That's some great advice, Art. Chat, are really enjoying it. Can we go back in time a little bit? I want to talk about some of your history.
Well, this will be fun.
You guys are going to embarrass me, right?
No. I just
never.
These are old man jokes. Like, you remember when you were in your early 20s and your oyster and
yeah.
Can you talk us through some of your highlights when you look back on your career with the big companies, with Marvel and DC, and even Image? What are some of the things that stand out? Who are some of the artists do you think were like amazing? Just anything along those lines.
I almost want to phrase it as a cautionary tale. Like,
cool.
When I first started, you guys, I didn't give a shit. I really didn't. I had no expectations. I had no, like, I'm kind of getting back to that with comics again. Like right now, like, I just want to have fun. I just want to hang out. I want to have fun. And that's what I did early on. And I think that excitement, like, not that I was the life of the party, but, when I would go like San Diego Comic-Con, I ended up like attracting young Jim Lee and, Kevin McGuire and Steve Oliff and, I can't remember some of the other guys, but they would hang out with me and my group of dirtbag friends, you know what I mean? Because we were fun. So I do remember one of my early San Diego Comic-Cons. Like I said, it wasn't like I was trying to like F you or the establishment. There was no big picture. There was just, we were going to go have fun. And I was from a rock and roll background, so we partied pretty hard. And so I just remember, like, I'd bring my dirtbag rock and roll friends to San Diego. We'd get a hotel room and we literally trash the room. And but we'd give a big tip. No, we would like put like $150 or $200 on the table. You know what I mean? Like, you know, for the maid to clean up. We didn't destroy anything, but you know, we didn't destroy property, but the room was pretty much a mess. And so I do remember early on, I brought a cooler, like an igloo cooler, and it was just full of we had some mixed, we had some heavy, you know, we had some whiskeys, we had some beers, we had all kinds of things. And then I had my friends that would go, you know, make runs and bring stuff back. And I just remember I'm in Artist Alley, and I'm drawing Jim Lee, Will Spertaccio, Scott Williams, Kevin McGuire, you know, Rob Liefeld, Mark Pacella. There's just a bunch of guys, but we were all kind of starting our career, you know, at the same time. So I would just because I knew I couldn't drink a beer right there on the floor, you know. So I had we had cups, we were trying to hide it, you know. And so I would just like crack open a beer and like pour it under the table, and I'd be drinking it throughout. And so like, you know, they'd be like, Jim would look over and I go, "You want a beer?" And Jim like, "Yeah, I'd love a beer." You know, and so you're pouring Jim Lee a beer and you're hiding it, you know, and you slide it under the table. And so we're just kind of there having a good old time. No expectations, no, you know, we weren't overly driven. I think I was working on like Teen Titans stuff, and Jim Lee had just started Alpha Flight, his run on Alpha Flight. So just hanging out, doing con doodles and just having a good time. And then after the show, you know, you go and blow off some steam. And we found ourselves up on the top. This is when the Hotel San Diego existed. We were partying on the rooftop of this building, man. It was rock and roll.
Cool.
We were just like knocking them back. And in those days, we were kind of smoking the jibs, as we used to call it. And, you know, just we just having a good time. So we were little vandals. So we did pull down the Hotel San Diego flag and we kept it as a souvenir. So I have somewhere, believe it or not, I have a photo of me and Jim and some other guys holding up the flag.
No way.
Hotel San Diego in my hotel room. Yeah.
That's cool. And are you still tight with these guys? Like you're still friends with Jim Lee and Greg Capullo and that kind of thing?
We're not as close because I think, like, you know, there's times in your life where you're close with certain friends and then there's you know, kind of grow apart, but you wouldn't say that you're not friends anymore. And if you probably saw them again, it would be like no time had passed. So I would say that my friendship with like Greg and Jim Lee and stuff like that is about the same, you know, as it always has been. And I know if I hung out with those guys, it would be like we just start talking the same as we did, you know, previously.
Yeah. So you didn't find that anybody did anybody try to disassociate with you when you came out as Comic Skate? Because I remember Dan Fraga was kind of saying that kind of stuff, that a lot of people who he thought were friends kind of turned their back on him.
I think you find out who are your true friends, and then you find out who are your like acquaintances, like your more like business acquaintances, and then people who probably never cared for you at all, but just put up a good face.
That's a good point.
I mean? But the good thing, and I think even like with Dan, is Dan's a really gregarious, outgoing guy. He makes friends everywhere he goes. I would like to think I never burn bridges. I don't care that much. Just to be honest, I don't care that much about people. I don't care about their politics. I don't care about their religion. I just want to have a good time. I just want to hang out. Yeah. So that it doesn't even enter into the equation for me. So if I could hang out with them and have a good time, I do. And I was raised right, because there's three things: politics, sex, and religion, right? You don't talk about those things in polite company. So I usually stay away from them, and you can get along with anybody, right? You know?
I've been thinking about that lately, actually, because there's two different modes of thought on that. Some people say that when you talk about your beliefs, like kind of like Joe Rogan does on his podcast, it can be very endearing to some people and relatable. But then I've been thinking about it. It's got to divide up your audience to a massive extent when you start taking sides with one belief or the other, and so it's a bit of something to think about. in terms of how you approach that stuff and what you say and what you don't say.
Right. For me, when I did sign on to Comicsgate, I did give myself permission to talk about anything I wanted to. So if it comes up, I'm not going to skirt away from it. I'll talk about it. I might even bring it up, but it's not how I define myself. Like some people define themselves by their political beliefs or their religious beliefs or whatever. And I'm just not one of those people. I have my beliefs. I keep them close to myself. And, I would probably fight and die to if there was opposition to it, but other than that, there's no need for it, because this is also how I feel. If somebody has a certain belief system, I'm not going to be able to change their minds really, and especially this SJW cancel culture way. They're not making friends. I'll tell you that.
No way.
Like you don't burn people to that extent and then have a friendship. This is the very definition of burning bridges. And those guys, you talk about a short-term look on the world and view on the world. Holy crap. When the chips are down, let's see who befriends them. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, I know what you're capable of. You got that person fired, or you said some outlandish shit that got this person in trouble. Like, I'm just not that way. Snitches get stitches.
That's true, and the tides are turning, like, in all honesty. And you're right, when all is said and done and the dust settles, there's going to be a bunch of people there that have made their bed, and then they'll have to sleep in it. I think it's a really smart idea to focus on building bridges instead of burning them.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not even that aware of it, because I don't want to seem like, I'm ass kissy trying to get ahead. I just, especially at this moment in time, I really do just want to have fun. I want to make good comics. I want to hang out with people that want to have fun as well. And I think that's why I talked about the early days. Is like, I think what happened with my career is because I didn't really care, and I didn't seem to have an agenda that these all these people that I befriended and that I ended up hanging out with. Bob Harris became X-Men. Like, I met him my first day kind of trying to get work at Marvel Comics. He was not only the editor of X-Men, but he became editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics. Mike Carlin, who I knew at Marvel, ended up going over to DC Comics and pretty much running the show as far as Superman, and then became editor-in-chief. Joe Quesada, I met, he practically was drooling all over me to ink him in the early days when he was first breaking in. You know what I mean? But they hung out because we were like, Dan Pinosian, myself, Jeff Johnson, Mark Pacella, and just a bunch of other guys. We just wanted to have fun at these shows, so I think people just hung out with us because, they wanted to have fun too.
Do you look back at your work in your career as a good time? Like, when I hear Ethan talk about working at DC, sometimes I get the impression that he didn't enjoy it as much as what the fans think he might have. Is that the same for you, or you had a great time?
Yeah, I think for me, you guys are asking really good questions. I could make a really great living, successfully, financially, not doing comic books. I would make way more money. I have done advertising work. I have friends in advertising, storyboards, all kinds of stuff. I could do those things if I wanted to. So my heart is really here. But then I did ask myself the questions like, why do you like this so much? It's kind of the lifestyle. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to put on a tie. I don't have to work in an office environment. I can think my own thoughts. I can do my own thing as long as I make my deadlines and answer to my obligations. It doesn't really matter. I can think my thoughts. I can dress the way I want. I can like the things I want. So for me, like, comic books were kind of a lifestyle. And now with, the crowd funds and all the YouTube stuff, it feels like rock and roll again. You know what I mean? Because like I said earlier on, like we're going in that town, right? And we're going to win. We're going to play our rock and roll music in the nightclub, and we're going to win that one fan over, out of the 100 people there, but that fan's going to be loyal and they're going to go to the next show and they're going to buy our albums and stuff like that. So, we're kind of like winning people over one at a time. And this is basically us touring the world. We're like a rock act, and we're like touring, and we're meeting people, and we're performing, and then hopefully we have people come back. And so that's kind of the way I look at the career. I will agree with Ethan, because the industry the last maybe decade has changed, and so people aren't as fun. Just to put it simple. I had an editor, and he was a complete and utter asshole. Just an asshole. I want to say his name. He's not working there anymore. Thank goodness. He got fired. And I know Ethan doesn't like this guy either.
Yeah.
He's mentioned him. And so I'm working with him on a project. He's just being real heavy-handed, and he's just being a complete dick. And then I said this thing, get this, okay? I said to him, the pages are on their way. I said, I sent them. And then he said, you didn't CC me on it. I said, well, I sent it to production. And he said, but you didn't CC me. And I said, so what? I said, that's my job, send them to production. No one told me I was supposed to send them to you. But he's acting like that was what I was supposed to do. And so then he's kind of getting on me. And then I'm like, why is this such a big deal? I told you production has it. You're in the same damn building. You're a hallway down from production. Go down the hall and just say, did you get the pages? Or send, or just enter, business email, send it, say, could you send me the pages that Art just sent? And so he doesn't do that. And then he says, Art, he said, how do I know you really sent those pages to us? How do I know that if you don't CC me? And I was like, this level of distrust between us? How do I know when I say, where's my check? And you say it's in the mail? Why would I trust you then? Like, if it's not a two-way street, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. You guys said, hey, Art, we want you on at 4:00 or whatever, right? We have a gentleman's agreement. You know what I mean? Yeah. It would be weird for me to say, like, how do I know you guys are going to have me on at 4:00? You know what I mean? Like this is really weird conversation to have. And so then he's just doubling down on his lame defense, which is like, how do I know I can trust you? I go, how do you know? I said, I've been doing comics for 35 years. How do you know? Any editor, just walk down the hall and ask them. I've worked for all those guys. I have more years logged in at DC Comics than you do, Wow. I said, how do you know? That's how you know. And also, what level of, and I said this to him, I said, what level of paranoia are you working on that you can't suspend and give me that little bit of trust? You know what I mean? Just to say, I told you I sent the pages. You don't trust me because I didn't CC you. That's the lamest power trip I've ever had. I told him, I said, this is the lamest power trip I've ever had. You don't have to power trip me. You don't have to treat me this way. I'm a professional. I said I sent the pages. You have to trust me. And so after that, life was living hell with this editor.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh. Like, he just made it. And then I finally told him, I said, listen. I want to say this so bad. I don't
You can if you want.
I go, yeah, I could. I don't get paid enough. I told him I don't get paid enough for this shit. I said, literally, I don't get paid enough for this shit. The reason I do this is just like what we're talking about. I do it because it's fun. I could make more money doing just about anything else. I have the skills. I have the understanding to do these things. I do this by choice. I do this because it's fun. And I said, you're taking all the damn fun out of comic books. I said, because you're an asshole. And so then I went to, because Bob Harris was editor-in-chief at DC at Comics at that time. And I have a good friendship with Bob. And so I did email him. And then I asked him to call me. He called me. And I told him, I said, this guy is treating me really, really badly. And I said, he doesn't trust me, and he's power tripping me. He's doing all these things. And I said, I think you need to talk to him. And I think if I'm going to continue to work with him, there has to be at least some trust. and some respect between us, because it's clearly not a two-way street here. And so what happened is I got pulled from the book.
Oh, wow.
Man.
Yeah, I got pulled from the book. So yeah, there are stories like that, you know, and this is the more newer side of DC, you know, where those editors are like, I don't know what the hell, they're just petty, they're power tripping people. I'm like, what the hell? If we can't have fun doing comic books, then why in the hell am I doing it? These are comic books we're making for kids, you know?
I know, right?
Yeah, and that's where they just lose all perspective. And that's where they're losing their mind, and they're doubling down on, you know, agenda comics and a bunch of other shit. And I just don't have any interest in any of that stuff, you know. So
totally.
That's the impression I get though, like from all the like artists that we've had on, that their time in the industry, you know, might seem awesome to the fans, but it's a lot of it was painstaking and over edited and, you know, interfered with and ball busted, like Art is saying. Like,
you guys, I'll tell you like the absolute horror story. I think it's my top rated. So if you go to my site under popular uploads, it says Marvel, they tried to destroy me. If you want to get insight on what these companies are capable of doing, watch that video. I got a write-up in Bleeding Cool and just a bunch of stuff. Like there was a bunch of things that happened after that. But in a nutshell, after I think I was working at Marvel up to like 25 years up to that point. I'm working on the Ultimate Spider-Man. I have awards that I got from that book, like multiple awards working with Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley on that book. Nominations. I mean, if you think about the textbook, like killer years, you know what I mean? Working in comics, this would be the epitome. And I just started a family. So I'm thinking I'm going to put down some roots here at Marvel. I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to wander. I'm not going to do, you know, like, you know, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to plant down roots. Things are pretty good right now. The books are selling. The royalties are decent. And so long story short, I didn't follow a powerful guy at Marvel. I think it was over Blue Line. I think he wanted me to start working on Blue Lines and save Marvel money. And so I thought we were businessmen. So I talked to him in a very business manner. And this is all in the video. And I said to him, I said, the reason you're doing this, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Blue Lines, but what happens is an artist, you can work with artists anywhere in the world now. You could then too, but it's much easier and cheaper. So they can scan their pencils, they can send it to the inker. The inker can blue line or print it out on an artboard in a Blue Line, and then they can ink it, then they can scan it, and then they can send it to, you know, the server, DC Marvel server. So no more Federal Express, right? No more Federal Express bills. I can work with people in Brazil, anywhere in the world. And so I told him, I said, this is going to save you guys money. This guy's name's David Bogart, by the way. And then he said, well, that's still unclear. And I said, why would you be pursuing this if it wasn't about bottom line? Why wouldn't we just, you know, continue the way it's going? And he said, well, it's still unclear. And then I was like, I don't like people to lie to me. I just don't, because it makes me seem stupid. If I don't call people on it, then it makes me seem like I'm gullible and dumb. And I just don't like that feeling. So I said, I just told him, I said, you will save money. I just told him, I said, you will save money. I said, I'm not dumb. How could you not? Like, there's no overhead anymore. You guys aren't paying for Federal Express bills, you know? And I know what Federal Express bills are. They're very expensive. So he wouldn't let it go. So I'm already like, you're not being honest with me. You know, you're kind of being a liar. So I wanted compensation. I said, if I'm going to do this for you, I want financial compensation. Because if I do this, then this is going to be the business for everybody, because I'm the template. He even said it, you're the template for all inkers. And so he wanted to work with me because he knew I could make it work, because I'm dependable. I make things work. I can do multiple projects and I keep my word. So he knew his upper ups at Marvel that he was going to be able to prove that this is a good business model and they're going to save money, right? But he's not willing to trickle it down to me, who's taken all the risks and all the chances. Because just think about this. Nobody knew what this was going to do to the original art market. I make quite a bit of money on original artwork sales. So nobody knew at the time. So this was all new, uncharted. But I would be that guy that if it worked, they would all point back to me and go, "You freaking collapsed the original artwork market. You and your whatever, your Marvel fine thing." And so I just told him, my parting shot to this guy was, I need to talk to some other inkers. I need to talk to some other talent, and then can I get back to you tomorrow morning and give you my verdict? And then he's like, "Why would you do that? This sign of a weasel. Why would you do that?" He goes, "They don't need to know." And I was like, "What do you mean they don't need to know? This is going to affect them. Like eventually they're going to need to know this stuff." He said, "But they don't need to know now." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to see what they have to say, because anything I do is going to affect them. So I think that they should know." So, I can, not to pat myself or like I'm this big guy, but I can call any of these guys. I have all their numbers. So I talked Scott Hanna, I talked to Danny Mickey, I talked to all the top inkers, Tim Townsend, all these guys. I said, "What do you think?" And they shared the same exact problems that I had. So then I'm like, well, this is universal. Scott Hanna even said at the time, he said he didn't even have high-speed internet because he lives kind of out there in the boroughs.
Yeah.
So, well, not, is it boroughs? Out there in the boonies, I guess.
Yep. Yep.
So he was like, "I don't even have high-speed internet." And then he said, "Now, like my cost of doing business is a bottle of ink and a brush, right? That's our overhead. But now we have to have Photoshop. We have to have 11x17 scanners. We have to have high-speed internet. Like there's a lot of things." And one of my qualms with this also with Marvel was they had no tech support. So this was dial-up days, you guys. This is like, you
I remember.
And you'd put things through time and time again before they went through. It could take hours before you could send, a file through. And so they had no tech support either. So, I come back to David Bogart. Long story short, I tell him I don't want to do it. Oh my gosh. I told a powerful person no. So he's involved with scheduling. So he made my world an absolute nightmare. He kept giving me less and less time on my deadlines. And then he eventually trumped up these charges against me. He said I was wooing talent over to DC Comics. Like I can do that. Like I have the power. You know what I mean? Like I can offer people these positions. I have no real connection with DC other than a freelancer. And so they trumped up these charges, and then they fired me. And then on top of that, David Bogart said, "You will never, ever work at Marvel Comics again." He told me that. And I was like, also at that time, I had more years logged in at Marvel than he did. I had way more success attached to my name than he ever did. But he's talking to me in such a fashion. And the other guy, he didn't even have the nerve to talk to me single. He had CB, Chabalski, or however you say that, buffoon's last name, on the phone as well. And so it was complete fabrication. It was a lie. They fired me. They destroyed me. My career at Marvel Comics just came to an end. So yeah, that's my bad story. What they can do to you. So I do have some of those mishaps, but I do look at my career overall, and it was a good time. And most of the people that are in comics are great people. There's just a handful of assholes out there, but you guys know as well as I do, they have the loudest voice, and their ripple effects can be catastrophic.
Yeah. I wonder sometimes if things would be as bad as they are if social media hadn't come along, because it seems like these loud voices are vocalized primarily on platforms like Twitter, and I'm not sure about Facebook and Instagram, but there's these platforms now where we're free to kind of get ourselves out there, but also those the other side of the fence is able to as well.
I think it's better though, man, because otherwise you get these people acting like wankers behind closed doors.
That's a very good point.
About it, like Art now is in control of his destiny, as I am and as you are, and we can do this independent crowdfunding Comicsgate thing ourselves. We don't need anyone sure, it's great having Art. It's great having Ethan help us, or get on their channels and help build us up and all that stuff. Fantastic, love it. It's the best. But ultimately, it comes back to us. We can do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be telling these stories if I didn't feel free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kept that story buried for a decade. That Marvel story. I finally told it on my YouTube a few months ago. You know what I mean? So I never went to anybody and said, "Did you hear what Marvel did to me?" It's just not in my personality. You just lick your wounds, you double down, on your conviction, and you go back to work. You know what I mean? Like, you don't do these things. So I'm not a vindictive person like that.
Yeah.
But I am really surprised when you see people that are vindictive. But to your point, Rob, the cool thing about right now is we have a voice too that can't be silenced. You know what I mean? Like, they can say shit, outlandish shit, but we can also point the finger and go, "You're freaking nuts." You're talking crazy talk, people.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah. And I think that, oh my gosh, Ethan plays this down, but he has no idea what seed he planted early on. This is pre-Comicsgate. We did a convention together, and we're going to the show together, and his son was there. His son's so cool. He's got a cool family. And so we're just setting up. We're walking to the show. We're setting up, and he just turned to me, and I don't know how the hell he knew this, but he just said this cryptic thing to me. He goes, "Art, there are more of us than there are of them." And I was like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
Like, what kind of crazy talk is this? Because it was so cryptic, and it wasn't prefaced with anything. It was just like, there are more. What's that?
Did he give you a wink at the same time?
Man, if he would have given me a wink, I think I would have shit myself. I would have gone, "Oh my God, who is this guy?" This is getting really weird. But there was no wink, but there was kind of like an explanation. And then he said, "There are more of us that feel this way, that believe this way, than you know." And then he said, "They're more afraid to say anything, though. So there's a silent majority out there." And this was pre-Trump. So then, and then you got to see the silent minority, or the majority that actually were tired of getting beat up, that were like, "No, we're going to step up, and we're going to vote our conscience, and we think this guy is right for the country." And so they did it. And much to you saw the world, or the states here melt down, after that. And so I thought, like, holy shit, one, how the hell did he know, that I was like-minded? Like what about my personality, you know what I mean, was radiating like, there are more of us than there are of them. Like, holy shit, I was never, it's almost like he just outed me at that moment. Like, but I don't even look at myself as a conservative. I always thought of myself more as a liberal. But I think at this point, I'm probably more of a moderate. I would vote either party. I would vote whatever my conscience, said, and that, and I always did that anyways. But I just thought that was so interesting that somehow this guy saw through the BS veneer that I was, and it's like, there are more of us than there are of them.
That's right.
Yeah, and it looks like
questions now.
Yeah. So what we're going to do, Art, is just invite a few people on to chat with you and ask you any questions that they might have. If you're happy with that,
I am happy with that. Yeah.
And then maybe after that we can talk to Art about inking or penciling and any tips he has for
art in general.
Yeah, I'm here for you.
Totally. All right.
I would like to say this and urge people. We are how much? We're like 70. What is that? Because we're at 16,921. So we're like a little over. What is that? 75. What's that? 70. Is it 79? I can't do the numbers right now because my brain is being completely stupid. But we're really only one backer away from 17K on the black and white Indiegogo campaign. So we are just a stone's throw away, you guys. One
That's
book
incredible.
away from flipping that over into 17K. So if we could get that to that point, I would greatly appreciate it. That would be awesome.
Oh,
amazing.
man.
Hey,
So
everybody.
hey, George. How you doing, man? He's our moderator.
Oh,
How's it
cool.
going, Art?
Hey, George, do they trust you with the wrench?
They do. They don't know what they're getting themselves into, though.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Art. What I've noticed throughout the years of me reading comics and collecting is the best inkers don't inject their own style into the art. They preserve the penciler's art. And you mentioned Scott Hanna, who's my absolute favorite. Second would be Art Thibert. But another
Wait,
legend.
let me answer that first because I have like a really horrible memory. So if you can remember the second question, let me answer the first. Scott Hanna and I love Scott Hanna. He's a good friend, but we are polar opposite in our beliefs because on some level, I have put myself in the background and go, I need to preserve, the penciler's vision on this book. However, I did not make my career doing that. If you look at my career, there's some hatching and there's certain things, there's isms that I brought to the medium that nobody else did. So if you have the belief that Scott Hanna has, you're not an innovator. You're a guy that just basically mimics that other person's vision. However, I always thought of myself as like a shared vision. So when I got involved with pencilers, most of the time, I inked them in completely the opposites, of what they wanted or what I felt that they wanted. Because, and I don't do this with everybody, but if you look at some of the stuff that I'm more noted for, there's big risks and chances there that I've taken, like even Art Adams, like that bloopy style. And the way I inked Art Adams, he had been inked previous and he'd been inked by himself. But I didn't follow those rules. I put this little bloop on the end. I did like this different approach to his work. And then years later, I have J. Scott Campbell, who tells me when I'm working on Danger Girl with him, he goes, this is really cool that we're working together because I've been trying to get you to work with me for years. And I said, well, no one's ever contacted me. He goes, well, I have. And he said, you are the style that I'm working in. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, that way you inked Art Adams is what defined my style. I took it right from what you guys were doing there. And he said, when I worked with Alex Gardner, I told him, look at this book. Look at what Art did over Art Adams. So you know what I mean? Like you don't get to that place by playing it safe and in the Scott Hanna way. So I'm not casting shade at Scott Hanna. I mean, he's obviously a really, really talented guy. We just differ as far as our approaches. But I will say there have been pencilers that I've just basically did exactly what they wanted. However, I don't find it as interesting for me, and I don't find it as much fun. And I think that it's a collaborative effort. And if it's a collaborative effort, I don't want to be a tool for somebody else. I want to add something. I want to be more, I want to add something to the final outcome. I don't just want to like I said, just be a tool and trace whatever that penciler wants.
That was actually leading to my second question. Did you ever see the movie Chasing Amy?
I worked with a man that wrote and directed Chasing Amy, and I'll tell you right now, he's a hypocrite because I just don't care anymore. So this is going to be fun. So I worked with Walter Flanagan and Kevin Smith on a Batman widening gyre or gyre, however, it's tomato to me. And so we worked on a Batman story together. And I was originally brought in by Dan DiDio. I always get those two names mixed up. So Dan DiDio brought me in And he knew that he needed an inker that had a heavy hand and that had a style, because Walter Flanagan stuff is decent, but it really isn't professional quality. So I was brought in and I was paid a lot of money, you guys, to do this project. And I was pretty much told, make it look professional. Like whatever you want to do. That was my editorial. Do what, whatever you want. And they paid me a lot to do this. So what ends up happening is I did a sample, which I never do, but Kevin and Walter insisted. I said, if I'm going to do this, you're going to pay me a bunch of money. They did. They paid me a bunch of money to do the sample. So we got it approved. No notes. They totally signed off on it. So I figured this was the style we were going to work in. So I'm about halfway through the first issue. I started getting these notes back. And they're saying, we can't see Walter Flanagan's pencils here. You're burying Walter Flanagan. You're doing it. And I'm like, this was the plan. This is what, you approved. And so it started getting ridiculous. So I'm getting emails from not just Walter and the editor, I'm getting emails from Kevin Smith. And so
Wow.
I had to remind them, and my editor, I said, this is what I was hired to do. You're paying me a lot of money to do it in this way. I already have half the book done this way. What do they want? And they basically said, they want you to trace the lines. So basically, Kevin Smith just knocked me down to a tracer. And so I said, I don't feel like I should take this money anymore. I said, you're paying me a lot of money to do all this extra work, so I don't feel like I should take it. And Dan DiDito, he knew the shit I was getting, and then he just goes, keep the money. He goes, just keep the money. So I got paid a bunch of money just to be a tracer over Walter Flanagan's pencils.
Well,
Rocky
hey,
Clayton, have you ever seen the movie?
Chasing Amy? No, I haven't actually.
It's a story about a comic book artist.
Yeah, right.
And
Cool.
there's a very famous scene where someone accuses the artist of instead of being an inker, but being a tracer. And there's a little bit of a violent confrontation afterwards. So if you guys get a chance, check it out on YouTube. It's pretty funny.
And
Thanks,
who's
Nick.
the actor? He's the actor that
Affleck.
was no, the other actor that was the inker.
Oh,
My name is Earl.
My name is Earl.
Oh, yeah.
He did the voice for Syndrome.
Cool.
What is his name?
All right.
Alex, can you mute your mic, man? You've got background noise at the moment. And Art, congratulations, dude. You've hit.
How about that?
Wait. Are you kidding, Rob?
No, man. Hang on. Let me show you.
Thanks for taking my call, guys. Nice talking to you, Art.
Oh, thanks for the. Oh shit, man, we exceeded it. That's awesome.
All right. By the way, welcome, Rick. It's good to have you here, man.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Hi, Art.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I am shaking with excitement. I am talking to one of my top 5 inkers of all time. So I'm really,
I appreciate it.
I really didn't have much of a question. I just wanted to come in and say hello.
Yes. Rick's
But
been very excited about having you on, Art. He's one of the How to Draw Comics admins. He does the podcast with us. And he's been a really great contributor to the How to Draw Comics cause, you could say.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we all need allies. So, yeah.
I've been really happy working with Clayton in all this. And I'm really excited to just be here right now. I actually do have a question for you, Art.
Okay.
I actually just recently found out that you were more than just an inker, and I feel bad for finding out just now. So my question is, would you have liked to have become more noticed as a penciler as well? Or because I think many people think you're just an inker, but you're obviously not. Would you have appreciated if you had been seen more as both, or are you fine with that your main thing has been as an inker, if that makes sense?
I understand the question. I started off as a penciler and an inker on the same day. So I got hired at Marvel as an inker, and I got hired by DC to be a penciler. So I started penciling the Warlord. So if you look at my early career, even that Time Masters, what is that TV show called on the WB that deals with Rip Hunter and the Time Masters? Anyways, that was loosely based on the series that I did. So Time Masters came out of that. And so I did a lot of penciling in the early days of my career. But what ended up happening is I'm heart and soul. Like when I get involved with these stories, I get involved. Like I can't remove myself from this. And I'm also a perfectionist. So if there's a way of telling the story better or drawing a better gesture or whatever it is, I'll take the time and do it. But what became very apparent when I was working is that they just wanted it done. Like they didn't care. They didn't care about the integrity of. I mean, they wanted it to look decent, and I was delivering on that level, but it wasn't my personal best. You know what I mean? So I was obsessive about making it my personal best. And so what was happening is I was also working with an inker that was breaking my heart. I'm not going to name names. So he was kind of turning pages that I didn't think were as good as what I was doing with the pencils. And it definitely was not my vision. And so I do remember going to New York City and talking to Dick Giordano. So I always get those two mixed up, who was editor-in-chief at DC Comics. And I'm a big, like, I love that guy's work. And so he brought me into his office and he always go, Art, my boy. So for some reason he liked me. And he was like, let me tell you something. He goes, great advice. He goes, there are jobs that you do for love and there are jobs you do for money. And he goes, that's it. There's jobs you do for love and there are jobs that you do for money.
True.
So you have to figure out what you're doing. So I was obviously doing Time Masters for the love because I was slowing down. I was kind of like doing it at my own pace because I didn't want to compromise it. And then it ended up being compromised big time towards the end because they just hacked it out towards the end anyway because there was no time. So I learned a lesson early on that unless I could pencil, and I have penciled since, I penciled Cable, I followed Jim Lee on X-Men. I did a couple issues where I penciled and inked X-Men. I penciled and inked a Cable series for Marvel. I penciled and inked a year's worth of covers for action, Superman action comics. So I've done my fair share of penciling. But what I found out is if I couldn't be heart and soul, and I couldn't really deliver and put the time in that I felt like I needed to, penciling just wasn't for me. And also just the practical aspects, I had to get work done. I had to pay the rent. So I was twice as fast as an inker than I was as a penciler. So shortly around that time, an editor, a close friend of mine, Jonathan Peterson, saw that, because I did pencil work for him, and he saw that I had a really good ink line as well. When Dan Jurgens started working on Adventures of Superman to get ahead of the schedule. And they kind of knew that Dan he had a certain look, but he really needed to be finished off, as far as a really cool polished look. So they knew that I could probably do finishes over him. So I could kind of combine penciling and inking. And so that's kind of where that came from. So I was kind of a hybrid of inker penciler. And so then I went in and started working on Superman. And that's where things kind of started cementing at what you're going to be in this industry. You know what I mean? That's what kind of started defining me. And so I never really pursued the penciling because it didn't really interest me. I didn't have a story that I wanted to tell. I didn't, there were certain things that it didn't dawn on. Well, I just didn't get the opportunity. So if you notice, most of the things after that are projects that I penciled are things that I wrote. So when you write your own things, you get to draw what you want. You know what I mean? And that's it. And so that's why I like doing my own thing.
I mean, I think why I first now recently found out that you're more than an inker is because I live in Denmark. We don't have that big comic culture at all. I mean, we have two comic stores in the whole country, two, and it is frowned upon when you said you were a comic guy before Marvel went crazy with movies and all that. And everything I ever read from you with you was inking, so I had no idea. And so I became a fan of your ink work. I did not think you were anything else. So
well, Rick, this is the best part for my career, to have almost 4 decades and then just to still have this thing chambered that I can throw out in the audience. You know what I mean? Like we didn't know you could do that after 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, this is a great place to be creatively, because I still feel like I have so much to offer the industry. You know what I mean? Because I never really have been defined in that way. I have done it, but this is kind of like a new awakening. So after, so many years, I feel like I still have something to contribute. I still have a voice in the industry. There's shit that you guys haven't seen me do yet, so I still have that.
I mean, I also have a whole new side of you to delve into when it comes to penciling now. So I'm excited. I thought I've seen everything you had when it came to inking, at least. And then I found out you have a penciling side as well. So I'm excited to delve in and find out more about you.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm a Renaissance man. I can do it all.
All right.
Cool.
Beautiful.
All right.
Let's get to Alex.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
All right. Alex, how you doing?
Pretty good. How's everyone else doing?
Pretty good, thanks, man.
Good.
Okay.
Where are you right now? There's a bit of background noise. You're outside, are you?
No, that's actually the neighbors across the street. That's how loud the music is. So I guess what I'll do is I'll mute my mic when I'm not talking.
No worries.
And so I guess, you'll hear as little of it as possible. But cool. I guess I just had questions from like a super novice-y beginner type of I guess perspective. And that's basically because whenever I guess I hear a pro talk about where to start and how to start, they just say start. But I kind of want a bit more clarification, because I've been pretty much trying to get into art for a little bit now, and it's been kind of a struggle trying to decide whether you want to do like comics or animation or concept art and stuff like that. I think I've decided on comics. I think I'm gonna, pursue that. But my question would be, I guess, what do you think the better option is? Do you think I should just go forth and make my own comic and, see if it works? Or do you think I should, I guess, try to find work in the industry, brush up my skills a little bit more, and then go forth and try to, I guess, do a comic?
Well, it's hard to say not seeing your artwork. So, I don't know if your artwork is better suited for storyboards or for, cartoons, animation, or comic books. I don't really know. All I do know is you're going to get way more freedom, like Rob was talking and Clayton was talking, in comic books, especially, self-produced comic books like Comicsgate books. So you're going to, the thing is, I always say, my daughter was trying to sing. She fronted these rock bands when she was young. And I said, you don't have to be the best. All you have to do is be interesting. Go and have an interesting point of view, write your lyrics interesting, have an interesting cadence, and appearance. So the thing about independent books is that you can go in there and you can do whatever you want. As long as you can cultivate an audience and build an audience, that's all that matters. So you don't have to draw the Marvel way, or you don't have to draw the DC way, or whatever it is. So I know it sounds like an oversimplification, like Nike, just do it, right? Just do it. But it really is that simple. And it sounds like what you need to do, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but just decide. And then just put your heart and soul into it. So if your heart is more into animation, do animation. If your heart is more into comics, do comics. And also think about this, Alex. It doesn't have to be an either or. Do your freaking comic book and then go pursue animation. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to decide at this point. Look what Clayton does. Yeah, do it all. It doesn't really matter, as long as it pays the bills and you're happy doing it. That's all, you know.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because that's kind of what I've been trying. I guess what I've been thinking and what I've been hearing more and more is just that it doesn't have to be the best thing in the world. Because honestly, I've seen other people's work, and no offense, so I'm not trying to knock anyone's work, but like you can sit there and nitpick it all day. Oh, this anatomy's wrong or this eyeball's wrong. And even in super professional work, you can sit there and like really look at the stuff, and it's like every panel isn't amazing. And I guess that's the part that beginners kind of have to get over, is trying to make every single thing absolutely perfect, as opposed to just looking at the whole picture and it's like, okay, well, this work is acceptable. Especially, I guess, at a beginner level, you have to kind of start somewhere.
Yeah,
And I think that might be the part that
yeah, and forgive yourself. Like forgive yourself. Don't go in thinking like you have to compete with the best of the best, because you're starting your journey. So give yourself some room to grow. Give yourself some freedom to make mistakes. It's horrible. Like Howard Chaykin told me, it was great advice. He goes, you don't make your mistakes on the board. You make your mistakes in the sketchbook. So if there's a certain shot, there's a certain angle, there's certain things that you're not sure about, don't put that in your comic book. Put it in your sketchbook. Perfect that angle, perfect that drawing, and then bring that into your storytelling. Bring that into your comic book, because you don't want to fail publicly. You never want to humiliate yourself publicly.
Right.
But having said that, it doesn't have to be the best either. You know what I mean? It just has to be consistent. It has to be interesting. What was that? Order of the Stick? They were stick people. They generated $1 million on Kickstarter. Like, you know what I mean? As long as it's interesting, as long as you connect with an audience, who gives a crap? You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter. Tell an interesting story. Tell it the way you want to tell it, and see if you can find an audience.
Yeah, and you've just got to start, man, because like you're going to improve the more you do it. So if you don't start, you'll never improve. So just get something done,
and don't get obsessed with perfection. You know, try to get better.
Got you.
Yeah, first and foremost, try to make it like look cool. It can have all the mistakes in the world. As long as it looks cool, people will forgive you for that.
Right.
Yeah, and do your best.
Clayton, you and I are like, I used to say that in comics, like in the 90s. I was like, the cool factor, baby. It's all about the cool factor. So I'd be talking to like Jerry Ordway and all these like really craftsmen, like guys that really know. And I go, you know what? It's all about the cool factor. I go, Todd McFarlane sells more books than you do. I never said this, but it was a roundabout way. It was a nicer way of saying it. You're the consummate pro, storytelling, anatomy, all those things. But Todd just knocks it out of the ballpark, because it's interesting, it's fun. And also by breaking the rules, it becomes interesting as well. You know what I mean? Because he could do stuff with the anatomy on Spider-Man that if you were following the rules, like Johnny Romita or something like that, couldn't do those things.
Yeah.
And Alex, check out how to draw.net, man. They've got lots of different resources there. I'm not sure what level of art you're at, but you've got stuff on how to put a comic book together, Clayton.
Yeah, there's everything for everybody there, from beginners to more advanced stuff. So check it out, man. There's heaps there. Yeah.
Do it, man. Okay. We want to see your book.
Cheers.
All right. All right.
Thanks, guys.
No worries, Alex. So we've also got Pedro in the house. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. Okay, so Art, you are an inspiration, sir. Okay, I'm a little bit more, I don't want to say it sounds conceited, but I'm a little bit more seasoned. But my background is animation. I've been doing this for 23 years or so. And
what you do in animation? Are you actually an animator? Are you storyboards? You design?
I'm classically trained animator, 2D. But the thing is, like, I've done a lot of storyboards and whatnot. And I mean, animation production, 50 people working to the same goal. There's no freedom.
Yeah.
So at this point in my life, I already started making my own book, but inking has been let's say a challenge. And since I'm working from a country where we really have no network, because I'm in Panama in Central America, you don't see that many Panamanian comic books, So, I mean, through YouTube and whatnot, I'm getting to meet people. But yeah, do you have any advice on like books or resources to go about inking? Because I mean, my style of drawing is not really like heroic. I mean, it's more akin to say what it looks something more like Disney Treasure Planet, that kind of vibe. But I wanna steer away from that look.
You want it to be more realistic, or what are you looking for?
I want to be more dramatic with my shading.
Okay, so more shadows, more. I understand. I would look at like some of the old school guys, because they would, because the color was pretty basic back then. Those guys were defining light sources themselves. So you see some crazy ass shit in like Gene Colan and like some of those early, I'd say like 50s, 60s, like even into maybe early 70s, Jim Aparo, even like Neil Adams was throwing in light sources. A lot of those older guys were like, or gosh, just what is his name? Will Eisner, like start looking at old Eisner strips and things like that. And you're going to see some guys that are just putting in shadows and dealing with reflective light. These guys are beyond anything that we're doing now. Like these guys totally understand light and dark, shape and form to a degree that, because we're just like, oh, like most of the comics now are just outlines, and it's like, oh, the colorist will take care of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you wanted to find more based on those things, and you guys, God, I can't think of any of the names now, but the Europeans, and I'm not sure what part of the country, but man, there's some really accomplished, what is it, Torpedo? I'm trying to think of some of the other like more European and God, I have my bookshelf over there. But there's a lot of examples of this stuff that you can pull. Alex Toth, that you can pull from and see that. And it really, and as far as your ink line, and also just as far as light and dark, just start turning off lights in your house.
Yeah.
The most dramatic is just like one light source. Be Mike Mignola, just have one light source. You have light and you have dark. Just keep it simple. And so there's tons of examples of that. Life is a great example. As far as an inked line, just buy a bunch of comics, go through your comic collection, and just look at like your favorite ink line and find out what tools they use, and just try to emulate that, man. That's all there is to that. And the thing about inking, I have to say, if you're using traditional tools and you're not using digital, it's like brush and stuff. It's all flow, it's all rhythm, and it's movement. So one of the things I always try to do is, even if you're ruling a line, there's no reason it can't move. So put a slight variation, a thick to thin. If it's coming closer to you, put like a thin and then thicker as it comes towards you. As the hand is coming towards you, make a thicker line on the hand and then tail it back, as far as thickness until it gets to the body. There's a lot of dynamics and things that you can do with the ink line. But as far as just style and technique, that's going to be based on you, man. And you're just going to naturally gravitate to it. You know what I mean? It's going to be your taste. That's all I can say is like whatever, floats your boat, like whatever you pay attention to, that's what's really going to define you. But there's some brilliant guys out there, and there's a bunch of examples out there. So if there's anything else you want me to get into more detail on the inks, I can, but that's pretty much all I can say.
No, I mean, cool. You've given me a pathway now, so I guess it's time for me to go study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you start inking, man, I still love doing this. Flip that board over, like you have your art on one side, flip that board over and just start dipping your tools in the ink and just do shit, like doodle, move your hand around, like just really test the limits of the tool, bear down, pull back, move fast, move slow, like all those things. And I have a ball doing that. I don't have a lot of time to do it, but every once in a while I'll still flip a board over and I'll do some of those things. And what you'll find, Pedro, is that like I think learning, the way we learn the best is like when we're not aware that we're learning. You know what I mean? Like we're just having fun. We're just doing stuff. So in those exercises, do things that are fun. And what will happen is this will become your vocabulary. This will be your language. This will be how you approach your drawing, your inking, I should say. You know what I mean? Because all those little things that you do, it doesn't seem to add up, but you'll find like, it's not even like you have to pull that stuff out and go, what did I do here? Don't analyze it, man. Just freaking do it. And one thing I will say, and I'm going to patent this, you guys, trademark, because I've never heard an inker say this before in my life. And I do have, I have performed on stage, as a musician, and I do the comic books as well. So one of the things it took me forever to do and to figure this out is penciling and writing. Those are processes. It's drawing, not liking it, wrinkling it up, throwing it away, trying again. It's a process. Writing is a process. It's typing something out, either liking it or not liking it, and then trying again. I heard writing is just rewriting, and that's so true. But drawing is the same way. You do animation, Pedro. Like it's trial and error, and it's a process. But inking is not.
Yeah.
This is the mistake I made. Inking is a performance. So I'll say this with my rock and roll, okay? So when I go out there and I play my drums in front of a crowd, if I miss a beat, I break a stick, I drop a note, or whatever it is I do, that defines the performance for that night. That's it. There's nothing else. You know what I mean? That's it. So, and then if you excel or you did something really, really cool, then that also defines that performance at that moment in time. So try to think about inking more as a performance, less.
I totally get that. I'm a guitar player myself, so yeah.
So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So when you get in front of a crowd, whatever, that's it. You drop a note, that's it. So inking is the same way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So if you make a mistake or if you do something really, really cool, that defines that performance. So the performance could be that stroke, that you laid down with the brush. Mm-hmm. It could be that panel. It could be the whole book. You know what I mean? But that's what defines it. So try not to get too obsessed with it. The imperfections are kind of what's cool about it. And it's also one of the things that we have, if you do it practical, that digital can't, because those guys have to manufacture the performance. You know what I mean? Like that's all stilted. That's all like, they even have stabilizers, Pedro. You guys know this. Like they have it's built into the program. So when you're throwing the line down, it also stabilizes your line. So you're like, yeah, that's really good. But it's not all you, man. Part of it's the program. So when you're inking practical, man, it's all you. It's the performance. And so learn to love that shit, man, because it took me a lot of years because I thought it was like trial and error. Like, you get all serious and you start intellectualizing. The one thing, and this, if you guys perform, the time to know the song is before you perform it. You have to know that song inside and out, because as soon as you get on stage, what's the first thing that goes? Your memory and the adrenaline hits. You know what I mean? Like, so if you don't really know that song intimately, then you're just going to F it up. So when you ink, you can't think, because it's not a process. It's just a performance. It's doing, it's feeling, it's being in that moment. I know it sounds that, like oh, hoity-toity or whatever, but it really is a performance. So be in that moment, just learn to love it. You're in, in front of 100 people and you're shredding on your guitar. You know what I mean? That's the performance. So I'm going to trademark that, because I've never heard anybody say that.
That's cool.
No, it makes a lot of sense. One last thing. I don't know if it would be
question.
Yeah, an intrusion for you to destroy my artwork. Can I share my screen and you destroy my artwork thoroughly?
Well, it's up to Clayton and Rob. Like,
yeah, I've got stuff to ask Art, and we want to look at black and white.
All right, let me just share my screen here.
Wait, get up your Koza rings, my friend.
Oh no,
Serious.
they're all digital.
Yeah, that's digital.
Oops. All right, cool. Let's get that
So-
bigger.
Yeah.
Those are the characters of the comic book I'm working on right now. Like, it's my story, so they're all original. So, okay, destroy away.
Well, I can't because it's good. So nice character design. I love the robot. I love robots anyway. I love the attitudes of the characters. The inking's digital, right?
Yeah.
So
But I don't use stabilizer. I hate it, so I turned it off.
okay, so if you want to be more like traditional, then to me personally, if you went more traditional with the approach, more thicks and thins, more expression, it's going to bring more life to this, because at this point it's really, really good, but it looks like it's, I don't know, the lack of word is like sterile. You know what I mean? Because all the line weights are all pretty much the same. There's not a real variation of thins and thicks. The reason, I like the organic tools is because they kind of give you a natural thick and thin, because, it's your pressure. It's whatever you're putting on it. And so I do think that it becomes more interesting and it can be more dynamic if you actually bring a brush or, a more practical tool into it versus digital. I don't see any of that, that shadow stuff that you were talking about, though.
No, that's the thing. I take it that way, and when I try to be bolder, I chicken out.
Well, I tell you what, since you're all digital, blue line those suckers up, you know what I mean? And then just have fun just throwing down some ink lines.
Okay.
And just keep in mind, bolder is better, especially with this style. So there's one thing, this is one rule I have. Like, if you're going to render, like, let's say Travis Charest, there's a lot of fine details, there's a lot of rendering. Thinner lines look better. But if you're doing more of an open style or animated style, thicker lines always work better. I don't know why, they just do, because if you start trying to put like really thick lines and heavy lines on somebody like Travis or something, it starts looking muddy and starts looking really heavy. So my rule of thumb is usually, if it's more open, then use a thicker line. If it's more detail oriented, I don't mean detail as like all that robotic detail. I mean like rendering detail. Then go with a thinner line.
All right, beautiful. I'm going to cut it there because we've got stuff to talk about still, and we're running out of time.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Pedro.
Thank you so much, man. See you.
That's a
See you later.
fun addition, man. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, that was really good. Let's do a real quick rapid fire question round, and then we'll get back to black and white.
Yeah, I'll try to condense my answers. I'm sorry, Rob. I'm like,
I love your answer.
I don't want to run out of time for you. So I'm just going to put you on the spot. Who is the best penciler that you've worked on?
the best or the one I've had the most fun?
Both. Give me both. Who's the best?
The best penciler. Oh my gosh. If I answer the best, I think I would have to say like the most knowledge pencil or educated penciler. And I'm trying to think now, who would be the most. I've worked with so many people. That's the best is always hard because it's such a sliding scale.
Who is the most fun?
The most fun, I think, are the pencilers that I don't have to think too much about. So one of the guys that I organically fell into was oh my gosh, I'm blanking on some of these names. It's Dave Finch. So Dave Finch, nice. I really liked because it was almost like the more irregular the lines were and the less patterned they were, the better. And so I was kind of in a rebellious phase. So I liked that. So instead of everything being uniform and all technical, it was more organic. as far as technical, I like Carrie Gamble. Carrie Gamble was really, really knowledged. As far as I think also, this is going to sound strange, but Mark Bagley knew anatomy like the back of his hand. His faces were really flawed, and I tried to help out with that. And I think if Bagley ever could get an aesthetic, like a really pleasing aesthetic with the faces, I think he would just be a crazy fan favorite. But that guy can draw, like he knows anatomy and stuff like that. So I think he's probably the guy that I feel knows the most about like composition and anatomy.
Awesome.
Very good. Clayton, you got any quick fire questions?
I do actually. When it came to working on a Marvel or DC comic book as opposed to your own art, which did you find more difficult? Because for me, I find it much easier to do work for other people than I do for myself. Is that the case for you, or?
I think it can be. It just depends on what I'm drawing for myself and how it comes out. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, look at that. Like you're really excited about it. And then other times it's like pulling teeth. So I think it's the same for like working at Marvel or DC, because sometimes, it's both. Sometimes you're writing high and you're like, yeah, I'm doing a great job. And then other times you're like, you're the worst, artist in the world and you can't do anything right. So yeah,
I have those days. I'm trying to get rid of those days, but they keep on haunting me.
They don't go. Yeah.
What's your favorite character that you've created?
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say Black and White, but I love those CHRONO guys too. So you know what? This is gonna be weird. The CHRONO guys, those four, Team 9.2 of Sector 7. I love those guys. And somebody told me, they said, those four guys are you. And I was like, I flipped them off. I said, fuck you. They're not me. How are they me? And there's a rock guy. You're a rock guy. And I'm like, yeah. And there's an artist, a Renaissance artist. I was like, yeah, okay. So, what's your point? And then, then he says, there's a businessman, who's the caveman. He sells cave condos. He's a real estate guy. And you run a studio, you're kind of like a business guy. And I'm like, yeah. I go, how would I be like Zen at all? That guy is, he's he's up there, he's spouting, philosophy and stuff like that. He goes, you can pontificate. You're full of shit. And I was like, yeah, okay. I see it now. I am like those four guys. So I didn't see it before, but I do now. And also, it's a tribute to my dad. So my dad was a working class guy. He was a knuckle buster, wrench turner. And so that's what these guys are. So for me, I think it would be those guys. You thought I'd say Black and White. And for I thought I'd say it as well. I thought at one point I'd go, yeah, Black and White.
Yeah.
But no.
It looks sick to me. I love them, the Black and White characters.
I do too.
Well, CHRONO Mechanics is up at the moment, actually. There's a campaign running for it. Is that right?
Yeah.
We got a link to it.
Yeah, thank you. It's we just crossed the 45K stretch goal, so everybody that backed the book will get an embroidered Team 9.2 of Sector 7 patch. So congratulations, you guys. Yeah,
lovely. Clayton, bring up your Kozor inks quickly.
Oh man, this is going to be embarrassing.
Putting you on
what
the spot.
is this?
This is Clayton and his brother are launching a comic book at the end of July called Kozor.
Yeah.
And
This is the cover for it.
40 years on
Your
the
brother. Oh shit! Look at this. Your brother's the inker?
Yeah, so I'm the inker and the illustrator for this cover, but it's taken a while, and I'm sure if we zoom in here, you can see why.
Oh, okay. There's some Dave Finch action going on here.
Oh yeah, love Dave Finch, love Mark Silvestri.
Yeah.
I really love David Finch's process as well as the end product of his artwork. I think he's got a very, when he starts a piece of art, you can see exactly how it's going to go, and it's very predictable in that way.
Yeah, one of the things that I think this is when people are like working on a completely different level is when you can, like, I watched Travis Charest draw. And he just kind of drew like a face from the nostrils out. Like he didn't,
wow.
he didn't put the structure out. He didn't kind of like blue line anything. There was no underdrawing. There was just kind of like almost like what's the composer Mozart, where that's brilliant, by the way, Clayton. It's awesome. I love that stuff.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that it's already like drawn or it's already written, and that's how Travis worked, and that's how Finch kind of works. Because I was at a convention, New York Comic Con, and I'm sitting right next to him. We're doing our sketches, and so first we're just doing these outline profiles, and then we just kind of keep up in our game. And so now Dave's bringing in shadows, and that's where Dave just rocks it, right? And so he's putting in a shadow, and then he's drawing out from the shadow. So whatever the shadow shape was, I'm like, what the hell is that? He's like, oh, there's an eye. There's like, he's just building from the shadows. So he's working from the dark to the light. And I always work from light to dark. I put the structure in and everything, and then I start putting my shadows. He was working the opposite. I was like, you're working on a level that I can't even
crazy.
Yeah, like, I don't know how you're doing this,
I gotta ask you, Art, how long does it take you to do a sequential page, like one single page? Does it take you a day? Does it take you a few days?
Well, it depends. It depends on what I'm working on. But I can do a page a day, and I will hate everything about it. I can put in a day and a half on a page and love it a little bit more. There might be a panel or a figure or a face that I like. And if I could spend 2 days on a page, I can pretty much say I'd like it. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
So I think it just depends on how much time I have and the level of I guess quality I want to bring. Although it's all quality, like I don't think anybody else would see it. And you guys are the same way. Like I could show something I spent 15 hours on, and I could show something I spent 2 hours on, and most people can't see the difference. And it breaks my heart, because I'm like,
brutal.
I spent 15 hours on that thing, and you like the thing I did in 2 hours just as much. But for me personally, I would never look at that thing that I put 2 hours in and go, yeah, that's awesome. It's always that thing that I hurt myself, that I slaved out, that I really killed myself over. That's the thing I'll always end up going, I like that better.
I feel the same way about my stuff.
All right, let's have a look at our campaign. This is where we started at 254 backers today.
Cool.
We are now at 257.
Not bad.
Fantastic. Broken 17K there. Do you want to walk us through anything in particular, Art, like the rewards or that story or anything in between?
Yeah. So what the basic gist of this campaign is that it's a second chance at the original Black and White campaign that we ran last year. Yep. So most of the tiers and most of it's similar. So it mirrors the original campaign, but we did add some twists. So the Total Bot Annihilation oversized poster is a new addition. And then the trading cards based on that artwork are every tier gets that. And then we have the Vampirilla Black and White that we didn't have in the original campaign. So there are a few variations that set this aside. But pretty much it's the same campaign all the way down to the stretch goals. So we're reissuing the stretch goals of the original campaign just because some of them were really, really killer. Oh, yeah. And then there's the drawing tier. Yeah. So we have the drawing tier there. And I could show you the sketch that I'm working on for the drawing tier. But anyway, yeah. So the stretch goals are in the killer bot tier, so you can get the stretch goals there, or you can add those on in checkout. And yeah, so then we have the Grey Capullo, the original variant, which we're just about sold out of. And then we thought we would offer a second chance on the second chance cover, which is the Grey Capullo Virgin cover.
Beautiful. And this is fantastic, man. I love this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and then right there we have the campaign. So those are the original stretch goal items. We have the patches, we have the sticker, we have the the trading card. I'm sorry, you guys are getting a little tired. And then the buttons as well. And the sticker, we did have a sticker with this original campaign, but we ran out of those stickers and they were a little small. So after I saw the Cyber Frog oversized sticker with his first campaign, I was like, we got to do that. So the Total Bot Annihilation sticker is pretty good size. It's probably, what is it? It's 3.5 inches round.
All right, so I don't have much money, Art. What am I picking up from this tier?
Well, pick up the book, man. Pick up the $25 tier, which is the book. It won't disappoint. It's the first half of the story, and it really does set up what the black and white justice is all about, and what this couple is about. So it does get into enough backstory that you'll have, because I didn't want to get too much of the backstory because I wanted to start with the action, but there's enough backstory there that you'll know who these guys are and what they're all about. But the thing I really, really personally, I want to get that Total Bot Annihilation oversized print. It's 24 by 36. It's 24 by 36. So this is an 11 by 17, you guys. This thing's ginormous. And it's colored by the brilliant Kyle Ritter there. So that's the artwork right there. Yeah.
And is that coming shipped in a mailing tube, or how's that coming out?
Yeah. So what my wife does is, we kind of learned over the years, because we do some mail order stuff. So I do lithographs and I do prints. And so we first started with the smaller rolls. So we'd roll the artwork up very carefully and put it in. But then we actually thought, well, let's bust one open and see how hard it is to get the artwork. Actually, she did it. I didn't do it. And so then she's like, it's a little tough to get it out. And then we have to kind of really roll it up. And then when you put it out, it takes a little bit of time to flatten it out. So what we're doing now is, you should see these tubes, you guys. Are like,
massive.
How many inches would you say that is? I got my wife in here.
At least 3 inches.
It's about 3 inches around.
I'm thinking of going with the triangle.
So she might go with the triangle as well. So then the idea is that we don't have to roll it as tight. So it kind of folds on itself, maybe 1 or like 2.5 times maybe, or 1.5 times, I should say. So then it flattens out easier. And then the next thing, Pamela, I don't know if you thought about this. This is now a 24-inch. So we have to find something that will ship a 24-inch.
A barrel.
Yeah, a barrel. Yeah, we'll send them out in barrel. So
And
yeah.
my stimulus checks come in. I've got a bit of cash now. What should I pick up?
You've got the cash to spare.
Got the cash to spare. What should I be picking up?
I do like the featured tier. I do like the featured tier because it has everything in it, and it has everything except for the stretch goals. So it has the 3 books. So it has the standard book. It has the Vampirilla book, and it has the Virgin Greg Capullo cover along with the posters. And keep in mind, all these come with a trading card, and they're all signed. So that's the one I'm really in favor of, because it gives you more bang for the buck. And also with the bundle, you're saving a little bit of money, as far as this is a little bit discounted. I think it's $5 or $10 discounted. And the shipping isn't quite as much, when you go with the bundle.
Ah, that's cool.
Damn, that bundle looks good though.
So is there only a volume 1? Is there a volume 2 coming out anytime soon, Art?
Yeah, we're working on volume 2 right now. So we're hoping that the end of August, early September, we're going to go live with the volume 2 campaign.
Can't wait. I'm excited.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And keep in mind, you guys, this black and white campaign is ready to ship. So all these books are done. So we have all the books printed up. Everything except for the stuff with the new artwork is ready to go.
Yeah. Speaking of faces, you're very good at drawing faces, especially female faces, Art. I think that that counts for a lot with comic book illustration.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with Jim Lean. He says it's all in the faces. So if you want to be a fan favorite, you got to nail the faces.
Absolutely.
And other body parts.
And thank you. And other body parts.
That's great.
So did you have to license out the Vampirella character to put her on your cover, or was that just a deal you made with Dynamite?
Yeah, I'm good friends with Nick, so he actually approached me, and I was really surprised. Like, he's like, "Can we put black and white on a Vampirilla cover?" So I was like, "Wow, that's a reverse," you know. And so that's how that happened. And then Vampirilla is celebrating 50 years, and Black and White is celebrating 25 years. So it's kind of a commemorative, celebratory cover for their the longevity. So we're celebrating the longevity of those characters. So there's this this I'm working up too. So this comes along with the Vampirilla campaign. So these are
beautiful.
These are the drawings that I'm doing for that campaign. And let me show you. I did these on a live stream, so the initial doodle is really rough, but this is for the black and white drawing. So it's going to have, like, it's more of a bust. So they're going to be more full, like, I guess from the bust up or from the waist up. And then it's going to have the crosshairs gun sight behind them. And so that'll be done up like that Vampirilla drawing. And so then this is my Lightbox cleanup version of
beautiful.
Yeah. So that's what the sketches are going to look like, or at least the layout of the sketches. So
how far do you take your pencils before you jump onto the inks? Do you render everything out and put the shadows in during the penciling stage, or do you just leave all of the details for the inking?
I have worked both ways, but I do remember I was really, really fortunate, you guys, and I know this is going to sound braggy, but I got to meet Frank Frazetta.
Wow.
It was like a one-on-one. And so I was working for a publishing company, and he was doing covers for the books, and I was doing the interior art for some of their books. And so they had some of the guys that were working, for Bridge Publication. And so we got to do a powwow one-on-one with Frank. I think it was like a lunch. It was catered. And so we got to ask Frank questions. And I asked him, I was like, pencil loose, pencil tight, what do you do? He goes, always pencil tight, ink loose.
Oh,
I never forgot that. And I was like, so that's what I do. I pencil like crazy. Like, everybody's like, your pencils are so damn tight. Why do you do that? I said, because I don't want to think when I'm inking. Like I said, performance. You want to be in that moment. So you want it to be about the performance. So if you think too much about what you're doing, you can ruin the drawing.
Man, that's so valuable to me. Like, that's something I've been struggling with recently, because I don't know how to approach it sometimes. I thought loose pencils and then fill in the details with the inks, but this has been quite a revelation for me. Just the whole performance aspect of it.
Well, I'm glad, but it's just one way of doing it. Because there's Todd McFarlane that, he pencils loose, inks tight. You know what I mean? Like that guy finishes things off in the inks. And like, I've done a lot of finishing work in my life, but I think one of you guys said something about when you work on other people's projects or something, like the pressure isn't quite there as much as when you work on your own projects. So I remember the last few finish jobs that I did for DC. I did the finishes with the inks. I didn't bring a pencil in at all. So I just trusted this guy's, his breakdowns, which are like really loose. And then I found myself just structuring stuff up real quick, just outlining, and then just going, because it's always like, how much work do you want to do? So it's like, because I get to define, like, do I want to bring in a lot of rendering? Do I want to bring in a lot of shadows? Shadows take work because you have to figure out light sources, stuff like that. Rendering takes time because there's a lot of lines that you have to figure out. So on this guy, I was like, I want it really dark and light. I want to do a Mike Mignola thing on it with some rendering, just so it doesn't look like a coloring book or like it looks just like a cartoon drawing. Because rendering always makes it look a little bit more sophisticated. And I did that whole job. It was a Teen Titans job. I did it all on the fly. Cool. And I love that job. I was like, yeah, this was fun because there was no expectation. It was just doing it, being in the moment, and putting it all together.
Awesome.
All right, a couple of quick questions. Art, are you available for commission work if someone's looking, or are you booked out?
I'm booked up right now. I know on my stream, and I'm sorry, you guys, I said I was going to open up my commissions list, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. And the sad thing too is like there's a lot of comics geek guys like, can you do a trading card for me? Can you do a cover for me? But once again, my procedure is just all in, and it takes me a long time to do stuff. So I don't really do that. And also I kind of feel, especially if I haven't fulfilled or finished a book, which I'm not in that situation right now, but I am starting a new project. I feel like to my backers, I don't want to take time away from fulfilling, and giving them the best job. So that's why I don't take as many outside commissions and cover work.
Totally.
It is so tempting because you guys are kicking ass, man. There's so many books that I'd like to do one of these. Because like Dan Fraga's like, just for old time's sake, I want you to ink one of these covers. And I was like,
I know the feeling, man. It sucks having to say no as well. You said it takes you a little while to get through these commissions sometimes. Are you able to ballpark roughly how much it would cost to get a commission from you, Art?
Oh, the commissions don't take any time at all. It's if somebody hired me to do a cover or something like that. I have a website. It's Art by Thibert. Yes, artbythibert.com. So go there and you can see I have original artwork up there. I have my prints up there, and I have my commission rates there as well.
Fantastic.
I do love to do commissions. I like drawing for people, but really the only place you're going to get me to draw is these campaigns. So like, the black and white drawings I'm going to do for you guys. But pretty much that's it at this point. Although I am jonesing because people, you guys take commissions or have in the past, like there's people that'll throw like characters that you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that guy exists, or that's pretty cool. I never drew that guy before. So that's the fun part about doing commissions.
Absolutely.
Do you want to come back on the show maybe in a month or so to do some drawing or inking or anything along those kind of lines, like a tutorial type stuff?
Maybe not so much a tutorial, like nothing really serious. Like I said, I'm about fun, but I do have some of these head drawings and stuff I'll have to do for black and white. I'm even still doing some of them for that Vampirilla that I showed you. So I could come on and just hang out with you guys. Do you guys draw as well on the stream? Is that what?
Clayton avoids it like the plague, but I make him do it sometimes.
Yeah, I hate drawing live personally. I get a bit of performance anxiety sometimes. I've been trying to fight it my entire life. I've been a teacher, I've been a YouTuber, but still get a bit of that stage fright when it comes to my art.
Yeah, I hear you.
People would love to see you doing work art. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I'll do some of these head sketches and stuff like that. I'll do them on your show, and we'll just hang out. And we'll get to see Clayton meltdown from embarrassment.
That sounds good.
Well, you know why you need to do it, Clayton, is because to you it's like it's a process. So every time I erase on a live stream, I think, oh my gosh, they're seeing me make a mistake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it is the process. Yeah.
It is the process. Yeah. And everybody is different with their process. Some people, like myself, make an embarrassing amount of mistakes along the way. But what matters is the end product, I think.
I think so too. And then it's weird because we could probably do this on another stream, get more into like inside comics and inside drawing.
Oh, yeah.
But there's one thing, there's several things that I do, and I do them each and every time, like clockwork. And I can't break myself of the habit. Like I usually make like the distance between the nose bridge and the end too long, or I'll make the eyes a little too far apart. There's like things that I do, and as much as I fight it, like I go, okay, I'm going to move the eyes down lower, the nose bridge. And then what I do now is I scan it and I bring it into Photoshop. And then I kind of, because you can cut and paste and you can move things in Photoshop. So because it take me too long to redraw it, I have to erase it and redraw it. So I bring it in Photoshop and I just play with it. And I'm like, even though I told myself, make this shorter, it's still just as long. Like there's like these abilities, right? There's things that are locked in your head, and they just like, that's how you see them initially, and you have to fight to not do it that way. And it's
totally,
funny, man.
It's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to go, guys, but I just want to say, Art, I'm going to pick up a copy of Black and White later. I will tag you. Make sure everyone in chat pick up a copy of Black and White. It looks beautiful. It was great talking to you, Art. We haven't really talked previously, so it was good to finally catch up and have a chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to put a face to Replicator. And what's the Dinosaur Samurai and Dinosaurs? Is that it? What is the other book?
No
What
other book.
is your book, Clayton? No. What is your book?
So Rob's book is Replicator. My book
Right.
is one that I'm working on with my brother right now, Kozor, Descent into Madness. And
I'm all
we're
mad
also,
right now. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm also working on another project, which is just me, but is a long way off, called Renegade Alpha, which I'm looking forward to as well.
Okay, so yeah, I'm mixing it up. I'm mixing it up with somebody else because I was on it.
That's cool.
And there was a book called Samurai and Dinosaurs or something, right? Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we will wrap it up here. We usually go for just 2 hours, but it looks like we were on a roll with you, Art. So it's been an amazing time. I've got to say, I hadn't really heard a lot about you or talked to you before either, but it's I feel like we had a bit of a groove going on. We had a bit of chemistry, so that's always good to have in these interviews.
Yes, and I'll definitely come back. You guys are a blast to hang out with. Thanks so much to everybody in chat for hanging with us, and thanks to all the backers on Black and White and on Chrono Mechanics. And go back those books, you guys.
Heck yeah! The links are all in the description below, so click on them. At least check them out. Have a read through. Check out the artwork. See if it tickles your fancy. If you'd like more comic art tips, tricks, and tutorials, of course, check out howtodrawcomics.net. And until next time, keep on creating, keep on drawing, and we'll see you in the next Creator Spotlight.
Thanks, guys.